Hello and welcome to Big Dash Knows. Big Dash knows what? New York Giants football. Let's go. This had to be a hard episode for Daniel Jones. Didn't quite sit right with Daniel Jones. Rightfully so. Rightfully so. If I just got paid a lot of money and you're already trying to replace me, I'd be upset. It wouldn't sit right with me either. But let's say this right now. There's no more questions. There's no more debates. The New York Giants were trying to get a quarterback. And not just any quarterback, not just one quarterback. They were okay with getting the top three quarterbacks, the consensus top three quarterbacks. Whether it was Williams, which they knew they didn't have a shot with, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, they were all in on all three of those guys. There's no debating that anymore. What episode was this? This episode 4? Episode 4 just proved that. It is what it is. Listen, this episode was pretty good. Not even pretty good. This episode was really good for the people like me that like to know the inner workings of how things happening, planning, just all of the behind the scenes stuff in general. This is the right episode for this, man. I hope that HBO keeps this version of Hard Knocks. I can't wait to see next year's team, whoever that team might be. It just fascinates me. Just the way that these guys do their planning, their scouting, their evaluations, how they rank their boards. And we know what their board was now. The top six players on their board, of course, it was Williams, it was Drake May, it was Jaden Daniels, it was Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze. That's what the top six of the board was. And shout out to the guys for, again, giving all this access. And they also could have edited out a lot of the stuff that we saw in tonight's episode, but they didn't. And I appreciate all that. They invited John Mara and Steve Tisch into the office, into Shane's office, and they broke down what the plan was for the draft. They pretty much told them, we expect all these guys to be gone, but in case these guys are there, blah, blah, blah. And they went through all these scenarios with where they thought the Cardinals were going, where they thought the Chargers were going. Spot on with Marvin Harrison, spot on with a tackle and saying it was going to be Joe Alt. And they talked about, okay, if this plays out this way, we're gonna take Neighbors. Oh, it might be Marvin Harrison. Then they talked about if Malik Neighbors and both Marvin Harrison were gone. Yes, Rome Odunze was kind of their guy at 6. That both of those other wide receivers were gone. But then they talked about possible trade back options. Trade backs they had with Tennessee, possibly. Trade backs they had with the Chicago Bears. Possible trade backs with Atlanta. They talked about all this stuff. And again, this is just a preview of the draft day. We didn't even get into the actual, moments of the draft. That's going to be the next episode when we really see some of these phone calls come in, whether it be from Atlanta or Tennessee or anything like that. But listen, I loved every minute of this episode, man. It was fantastic in my book. So I'm just going to go back to some of the notes I have, because I do have a couple of notes. It's probably going to be one of the shorter recaps of Hard Knocks that I've done so far. So the first thing I said on my notes, just going down my notes, it said, it's clear that they were trading up for a quarterback, no debates. That's what I said in the beginning of this video. Okay, also, we saw for the 30 visits. For the 30 visits, they had all three wide receivers there together. All three wide receivers there together. And guess who was in the room first? It was Malik Neighbors, followed by Marvin Harrison, followed by Rome Odunze. And if you notice on the episode, Malik Neighbors sitting there. Marvin Harrison comes in the room. Malik Neighbors didn't even budge, didn't even say hello to him. I don't know if they edited it out, but you can see Malik Neighbors notice it was Marvin Harrison and go right back. He was locked in. Marvin Harrison came in. Rome Odunze came in. They were on the whiteboard with the wide receivers coach, breaking down plays, talking about schemes, talking about option routes, stuff like that. Guys answer all the questions. So after they get out of that, wide receiver coach is ecstatic. He's happy with all these guys. He says something like, I would draft all three of you guys, all that small talk stuff. Later on, you see John Mara in the office talking to the wide receiver coach, and he goes, which guy did you like the most? Or which guy would you take right now? If you're on the clock at 6 right now, which guy would you take? And without hesitation, the wide receiver coach says, Malik Neighbors. John Mara goes, really? Over Marvin? Wide receiver coach says, yep. Yes. Wide receiver coach was sold on Malik Neighbors. Brian Dable sold on Malik Neighbors. Joe Shane sold on Malik Neighbors. The room, the organization, they loved Malik Neighbors. And they got a guy that they absolutely loved. That they couldn't get the quarterback that they wanted. The weapon that they wanted here was Malik Neighbors, without a doubt. Other thing I want to talk about. Oh, again, I talked about, all through the draft season. I talked a lot about Michael Penix. Not one time have you heard the name Michael Penix at all in Hard Knocks. They talked about J.J. McCarthy. You didn't hear Bo Nix either. Michael Penix. So I'm convinced right now Michael Penix was never a real option for the New York Giants in the first round. And also talking about that, remember, the Atlanta Falcons drafted Michael Penix. When Joe Shane went through his scenario talking about which teams are going to pick who, and they had, Latu, and they had Dallas Turner pretty much shoo-ins for Atlanta, talking about they need an edge rusher, and Atlanta went with a quarterback. So we'll see how that plays out real time on next week's episode when they go over the draft. Also, again, the Patriots, man, we saw the phone call. We saw the teaser trailer going into this episode. We saw Joe Shane talking to Elliott Wolf, and Elliott Wolf talking about it'll be a 1, 2, and a 3 this year, and then a 1, 2 next year, talking about he was exaggerating. But you saw in the phone call that Joe Shane was dead serious, man, trying to see exactly what these guys would need to move off of that pick. And it was clear. It was absolutely clear that the New England Patriots were absolutely staying at 3 and absolutely picking a quarterback. Like, absolutely. And so whatever, it would have been, like he said in the episode, a Ricky Williams type deal when you're giving up everything in order for them to move up. And I guess they just didn't feel comfortable with doing that. And again, it is what it is. Also, you saw when he was talking about the trade scenarios and stuff like that, or the trade back scenarios, Rome Odunze, again, was an option. But they also, and I would have went crazy, they also thought about Brock Bowers. Now, let me tell you this, man. If the New York Giants would have drafted a tight end, if the New York Giants would have traded back and drafted a tight end, Brock Bowers, I would have been highly upset. Like, highly upset. All you keep talking about is a wide receiver 1. Not a tight end that could be a receiver 1, a wide receiver 1. If we would have took Brock Bowers, man, it would have been, to me, I don't know about you guys. You let me know in the comments down below how you would have reacted to Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers would have made me upset, just like Joe Alt would have made me upset. But it is what it is. And then lastly, one thing I noticed too that was kind of funny, they had Take Your Kids to Work Day. They had Take Your Kids to Work Day, and he's Joe Shane's in the office with his wife and his kids, and he's playing a game, with them. He's asking his kids, who do you guys want to pick? All his kids chose quarterbacks. His son chose Jaden Daniels. His oldest daughter, chose J.J. McCarthy, and his youngest daughter, his baby girl, picked Drake May. One thing that his son said too, you only get this job once, is what his son said to him right after he said Jaden Daniels. You only get this job once. And let me tell you something, man. Shout out to his son. I could imagine the kind of stress he was living under at school with all those kids knowing Joe Shane is your dad, most likely a school full of New York Giants fans, and the pressure that he was getting. Just like, tell your dad to draft this guy. Tell your dad to draft that guy. I could imagine that happening. Because if I was a kid in the school, I would have been doing the same thing. But all his kids wanted a quarterback too, and I just thought that was fantastic, man. Just a cherry on top with all of this discussion and arguments that we're having, within the Giants fan base over, did they really want a quarterback? I just thought that was kind of funny, and it's stuff like that. But yo, man, it was a fantastic episode. Again, this is a quick recap. If you haven't watched it, man, go ahead and watch. I'm probably going to go ahead and watch it again tonight probably, because it's still pretty early over here on the West Coast, so I'll probably watch it again. But fantastic episode. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. But with that being said, I want to thank everybody for vibing with me. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And for one Giants fan to another, this is Big Dash Knows, Big Blue Nation. Let's go.